Hey everyone, my name is Taylor Silverduke, registered dietitian specialized in celiac disease, and today I want to talk to you about 3 myths I commonly hear about celiac disease. So the first myth that I commonly hear about celiac disease is the myth that people with celiac cannot eat eggs from chickens who are fed gluten-containing grains. Now, if you're not familiar, gluten-containing grains are barley, rye, and wheat, and if chickens eat those grains, there's a myth that you cannot eat anything from that chicken, whether it be the chicken meat or the chicken eggs. This is absolutely a myth. It's really important to understand what gluten is and understanding this myth and how it's digested in the body. So gluten is a plant-based complete protein. It is a protein found in plants, and when consumed, like other proteins, it is broken down into smaller amino acids, so building blocks of proteins. So during digestion, your body is breaking down these proteins into amino acids for absorption, and then they use those amino acids to build other proteins in the body like muscles, hormones, and other things like that. But never does an animal build a plant-based protein in their body, so these chickens are not building gluten in their bodies, they're not building gluten in their eggs. It is a plant-based protein. So rest assured, you can safely eat eggs and poultry from the grocery store. Now, someone did suggest that the eggs could still be at risk for cross contact with gluten because the chickens are walking around the gluten grains that they are fed, and then thus they could transfer those gluten containing grains to the outside of the egg shell. So if you're buying any eggs from the grocery store, per USDA safety standards, eggs must be washed before being sold in stores. But if you're raising your own hens, it absolutely could be a point of cross contact, and before you use their eggs, make sure you wash them beforehand or feed your hens a gluten-free feed. Now, the other myth that I commonly hear with celiac disease is that you can grow out of it or there is a cure. So celiac disease cannot be cured at this point, and you cannot grow out of celiac disease. Once you have a celiac diagnosis, it is a lifelong diagnosis. I wish I had better news for you. However, this myth is still very pervasive as people find that they suddenly stop reacting to gluten and must be fine. You'll also hear a lot of older generations talk about how they grew out of celiac disease because it was once thought that you could cure celiac disease with what is known as the banana diet. However, we have determined that the banana diet cannot cure celiac disease, and thus the only treatment for celiac disease is a gluten-free diet. And if someone is saying that they have been cured or they used to have celiac disease, they probably just misunderstand their diagnosis and they don't understand it's a lifelong diagnosis, and or they are confusing celiac disease with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, which is a completely different thing. And if you want to know the differences between celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity, I have a video explaining the differences. I'll leave a link down below, and I guess I'll leave a card somewhere if I can figure that out. But that is the second myth that I commonly hear, which is you can cure or grow out of celiac disease, which no, there is no current cure for celiac disease, though there are treatments in the works. And no, you cannot grow out of celiac disease. Celiac disease, as of right now, is a lifelong diagnosis. And the other myth around celiac disease that I commonly hear is that if you are glutened, you should either make yourself throw up, take activated charcoal, or a gluten digestive enzyme. So let's break down all 3 of those myths, because all 3 of those interventions for gluten exposure are actually extremely unsafe and not proven for celiac disease. But let me explain why. So first, let's tackle making yourself throw up after you've been exposed to gluten. So making yourself throw up is not proven to reduce gluten from entering and causing an autoimmune reaction in your body after ingestion. So if you make yourself throw up, you're just making things worse by now inflaming the rest of your digestive tract with throw up that wasn't planned for, and you're putting all of your oral health at risk as well. So making yourself throw up in response to gluten ingestion is completely unsafe and will make things worse. worse. So do not make yourself throw up if you've been exposed to gluten. The best thing you can do is self-soothe, and if you need more tips on what to do when you've been glutened, I also have a video all about that. I will link to it too. So let's tackle activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is thought to help with gluten exposure because it is used in the medical system to bind to drugs when people overdose on drugs. However, there is nothing to clinically suggest or prove that activated charcoal actually binds to gluten. And so when you are taking it, all we know is that it is binding to potential drugs that you may have taken. There's nothing to suggest that it binds to gluten and flushes it out. And really the biggest concern is it could be binding to very important medications that you may be taking and rendering them ineffective. So activated charcoal, if anything, is absolutely dangerous, and it's really important that if you're considering adding activated charcoal to your supplement regimen or adding any supplement to your supplement regimen, that you're discussing those supplements with your doctor to make sure that they are not interacting with any of your other medications. And also, there's nothing to prove that activated charcoal helps with gluten exposure. However, there is anecdotal evidence that it does help some people, and we don't have any clinical evidence to prove this or replicate this. However, that's not to say that a placebo effect or something of that nature isn't going on, or maybe something else is going on that was compounding onto the gluten exposure symptoms, and thus the activated charcoal could help. We don't know enough, and right now what we do know is it is largely unsafe, especially if you are on other medications. So again, if you're considering activated charcoal, please talk to your doctor about the safety of it in your situation, and it is not, again, proven for celiac disease and gluten exposure. In fact, it could be more harmful. The next myth around gluten exposure is taking gluten digestive enzymes when you've been exposed to gluten. And this has had some research to prove that it could be effective if you have non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Now here again, it's really important you understand the difference between non-celiac gluten sensitivity and celiac disease, because gluten digestive enzymes could be effective for non-celiac gluten sensitivity because it's a completely different thing from celiac disease. And if you're interested on the differences, again, there will be a video. You can go learn about all of the differences between the two. However, gluten digestive enzymes have not been clinically proven or shown to reduce the autoimmune reaction that occurs after a person with celiac disease consumes gluten, or reduces the damage done to the villi after a person consumes gluten with celiac disease. And there's no clinical evidence to prove that it may help with any symptoms that arise from gluten consumption if you have celiac disease. So that's the third most common myth that I hear with celiac disease, is when you're exposed to gluten, you should take activated charcoal or a gluten digestive enzyme and or make yourself throw up. In summary, yes, you can eat eggs and chicken meat no matter what they were fed before they arrived to your kitchen. And no, celiac disease cannot be cured, and you cannot grow out of celiac disease. And 3, if you've been exposed to gluten, you should not make yourself throw up. Gluten digestive enzymes have not been clinically proven to help with celiac disease, but have been proven to help with non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And if you're considering activated charcoal, please talk to your doctor because it can be more harmful than helpful. So those again are all of the myths that I commonly hear with celiac disease and the actual answers for them. If you have any other questions related to celiac disease, please let me know. Happy to answer them in a video. And if you need help with celiac disease, or you have a bunch of questions related to celiac disease and you're worried about your health, this is something that I help all of my clients with one-on-one and in a group setting. So I would love to talk about how I can help you. There'll be a link down below for you to schedule a free call with me to figure out if we'd be a good fit to work together. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. My name is Taylor Silverduke, a registered dietitian specialized in celiac disease. Like this video if you've heard any of these myths, and comment down below a myth you've heard about celiac disease. And don't forget to subscribe for more celiac dietitian specialized content. And with that, I will catch you in the next video.